What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Broadway Joel, and I'm here with Bob Santos. Welcome back to the show. It's the voice of Dominican boxing is always happy when Bob Santos is on the show. How you doing, my brother?
Great. It's always great to be with you. You know that.
For sure, for sure. I'd be remiss if I don't start off the show by talking about two of your former fighters who just fought a couple weeks ago. Uh, Alberto Puello just became the WBC champion, and Carlos Adames defended his WBC championship. I wanted to start off with Puello. How did you feel about his performance against Gary Antoine Russell? Many were picking against him. Many saw him as the underdog, and he ended up pulling up an upset with a point being taken away from him, which I thought was ridiculous. But what's your opinion on Puello's performance?
I thought he had a masterful performance. I mean, he did what he always does. He's a tremendous fighter from distance. He's got that great amateur pedigree. He's got a tricky style, good movement, good length, and I thought he had a masterful performance. And when you look at the fact of the type of competition level that he was in there with a guy obviously that had stopped every single opponent that he had before him. So when you take those things into account, level of opposition, that guy's punching power, I think he gave him a lot of fits with the movement. I thought he was on point and he looked really, really sharp. I was happened to be there ringside that night. I'm super, super happy for him because, I enjoyed my time with him. We're still friends to this day. And I'm very, very, very happy for him and his family.
Were you surprised at all that Gary couldn't seem to cut the distance? Couldn't his power didn't really seem to bother Puello at any moment? Were you surprised by that?
Yeah, it was a little bit. I thought he would have gave Puello a little bit more fits on the inside, but Puello did a good job of tying up. Gave good movement, like I said, and he didn't allow him to really get his feet set and get into his game. And so basically, Puello to me dictated what he needed to do, and Antoine Russell kind of fell victim into the fact that had I been in the corner of Gary Antoine Russell, and I'm sure that they were telling him that. I'm sure his brother, he has to have some understanding. It was a lot of head hunting. He should have been working the body up and down a lot more. The times that he was able to get Puello into the ropes, again, tons of head hunting. And so he kind of fell victim and prey. And maybe because, he's thinking to himself, hey, every fight I've won by stoppage. Sooner or later, I'm going to get to this guy. And lesson learned for him. Once you start stepping up the food chain to the elite level and guys that have been there and done that, you got to mix things up. You can't just be a one-trick pony.
Okay, all right. Carlos Adames also was on that same card, June 15th, on Javante's undercard. He he didn't have such an impressive performance to say the least. This is an opponent that was his first fight at 160. Had never been knocked out, but it seemed I was very confused as to what Carlos' plan was and why he threw so little punches. You being his former trainer, what did you see that he didn't do in fights with you?
Well, Adames is a tremendous talent. He's a very explosive fighter. I don't know what the reason being was that night. Like how he got the win. You move on to the next thing. So that was real good for him. I'm happy that he got the win. But I was kind of remiss. I was perplexed by the performance. I mean, I don't know what's going on in the background, but in terms of, I know how explosive he is. Gausha, that being said, obviously I had Laura, who I managed, who fought Gausha, and we dropped him. Laura's not as explosive as Adames by any stretch.
Really?
That being said, that's a couple years back. So Gausha is much longer in the tooth now. I expected Carlos to stop him. There's no two ways about that. I think he was capable of stopping him. I don't understand what the mindset was or whatever, because Carlos is a tremendous talent. He's a tremendous talent. Um, and I think because his talent is and everybody in and around him knows what the talent is, I think sometimes, he becomes a victim of his own talent because you're expecting, this. And if it's anything outside of that, then people are kind of like, well, you're the boogeyman. And when you portray yourself that way, you got to go out there and go get it. And, you look at the performance with J-Rock, he went out there, that's a former unified champion, a world champion. He went out there and stopped them. Gausha is nowhere near the puncher that J-Rock is. I don't think he's nowhere near the fighter that J-Rock is, a motivated J-Rock. And in 30 pro fights, the guy has like 14 knockouts. So I don't understand why he didn't press him and really step up the gas. And then, you're looking again too. I think that was his lowest punch output of his career at that level. So I'm kind of perplexed at what the situation was with that. I don't know. Maybe he had a hand injury. I don't know.
In between rounds, I know you said you were live at the fight. So in between rounds, his trainer, Ismael Salas, was telling him, "Don't go southpaw. Please don't try new things. Don't stay orthodox. Don't go southpaw." And we know that when Carlos was with you, he went southpaw often. And in fact, the J-Rock fight, I feel like he fought most of that fight southpaw.
And also we did with the Montiel fight. So I like to have the flexibility. He's capable of doing it. He's a great fighter from both sides, from the left side or from the right side. So for me, I think I like to let him get a little bit creative in that regard. For me, I liked him to be a little bit more offensive, more aggressive, because I know what type of puncher he is. And I just thought that brought more to his career. And you probably know this better than anybody in this sport. When you're a Dominican and you're not from the United States, it's unfortunate. All things are not equal in life. All things are not fair in life. But you got to go out there and you got to show out. You know what I mean? It's not like you're Canelo and you could just show up and 40,000 people are going to show up to the arena. You got to sell out. You got to give the fans something that they're like, wow, this is impressive. I understand you got to win. You don't want to take chances. But I think in his case, when you have a guy who has 14 knockouts in 30 pro fights, who's going up to 160 for the first time, and he's long in the tooth, I think you press the guy and you take his ass out. And I think Carlos is capable of doing that. But, I don't know, did he have a hand? I don't know.